Welcome everyone. My name is Sean, and today I want to talk about Governor Kathy Hochul, the governor of the state of New York, deploying the National Guard to the New York City subway system in order to institute random bag checks. Now, there may be some national security implications of this particular thing, which I will touch on later, but overall, I find this to be rather interesting, especially when you have all these people on the left wing talking about how crime, it not up, crime go down, crime down now, crime down. Now, we're going to discuss this, but before I do, thank you to everybody who signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
And yes, I will be in Austin, Texas at the Vulcan Gas Company. It's a theater on April 27th for the Minds Fest. Link to tickets in the description of this video.
If you take public transit, there's a decent chance you've already noticed them on your morning commute. National Guard members doing random bag checks in the subway system.
This is all part of the plan the governor unveiled yesterday to combat the perception of rising subway crime.
So, as you just heard from the local news affiliate, there are National Guard being used for random bag checks in the New York City subways, and supposedly this is about the perception of rising subway crime, which of course, that perception is based on people perceiving reality, because subway crime is in fact up, and let me explain why. So first thing, the numbers. In the city of New York, 3 people have already been killed in the year 2024 in New York City's subway transit system. This is the most of any year over the last 15 years. On top of that, since the start of the Black Lives Matter riots, aka 2020, records show that the NYPD recorded 32 murders in subway train stations. To compare that, in the previous years of 2005 to 2019, there were only 31 murders. So in the 3 years and 2 months since bail reform, in the 3 years and 2 months since all these woke criminal justice policies, like not stopping people for fare evasion and all these other issues, we've seen more murders in the New York City subway system than we saw in a previous 15-year period. That's where we're at, and no, it's not a perception of crime, it is a reality. In fact, compared to this point of last year, subway crime appears to be up.
Subway crime is up 13% compared to 2023, with assaults on the transit system up 11%.
So now that we established that subway crime is up, it is a trend over the last 3 years and 2 months of it being up, and we're talking about assaults, robberies, attacks, all of that nonsense, plus murders, the most serious of crime. Let's talk about whether or not I agree with this initiative to deploy the National Guard and state troopers to initiate random bag searches.
Governor Kathy Hochul yesterday announced that she will be deploying around 750 National Guard members and around 250 state police troopers to conduct random bag searches at some of the city's busiest subway stations. Hochul would not say how long she plans to use the National Guard and state police for this new operation, but this will be on top of the additional 1,000 NYPD officers Mayor Eric Adams sent to patrol the subway starting in February.
Now, first and foremost, to be clear, the NYPD has the jurisdiction over this particular area. They're the largest police department in the entire world, and there's also divisions of transit police that should be able to do this. So on its surface, it seems like this is something that isn't all that necessary. On top of that, random bag searches, that's the solution they brought forward. The biggest problem in the New York City subway system is that the number one method that was used in order to get criminals out of the subway and thus reduce subway crime has been taken away from the NYPD, and that is arresting people. Yes, handcuffing and arresting people for fare evasion, because it turns out when this program was instituted, they discovered that there were downstream effects of the people who are jumping the turnstiles trying to rob the subway for free, in that those were the very same people who violated in other ways, committed other crimes, committed other thefts, committed other assaults, which makes perfect sense. If you're willing to violate society's rules to commit a murder, to commit an assault, to commit a robbery, chances are you're not going to have any qualms about jumping the turnstiles. And this is why William Bratton, when he was the head of the MTA police, cracked down on this, brought the processing to the subway, and we found that 1 out of every 7 people arrested for the crime of fare evasion popped for a felony warrant. Oh, and also, I feel like this should go without saying, but when they started enforcing the law against fare evasion, fare evasion went down as a little bit of a secondary effect right there. And by the way, since they've stopped enforcing it, fare evasion has gone up. So not only do you get criminals out of the subway system, reduce crime in the subway system, reduce crime in the overall city of New York by doing this, but you also make the MTA more solvent rather than all of the negative effects of this.
This comes as subway crime is up 13% compared to 2023, with assaults on the transit system up 11%. Now, according to the NYPD, 2023 had the highest number of subway assaults since at least 1996.
Now, is having the National Guard and having state troopers do random searches of random people's bags an equivalently targeted program that's going to have similar effects, especially when you consider that 2023 was one of the worst years in terms of subway violence since the 1990s, and the early indicators for 2024 are that they're up overall 13%, but violent assaults are up 11%? No, absolutely not. This is an untargeted, blunt, and clear unconstitutional search program that they're initiating with the National Guard, all because they decided to stop prosecuting subway crimes. They got statewide bail reform that Kathy Hochul doesn't want to address, and this is their substitute. Violate the rights of everybody else, have the guardsmen pick out randoms as if that is going to be as effective as trying to detect the problem people by their behavior, by their actions, and using that particular stop, that particular arrest point in order to intervene. So I'm 100% not on board with this. I think it's ridiculous and absurd, but I do want to point out that that's how dire the situation is, because a lot of people are telling you crime, no big deal in New York, nothing to worry about. Just drop the topic, forget about it, and move on with your day. But you can say that on one hand, but on the other hand, you're putting National Guard in the subway. You can say that DA Alvin Bragg reducing charges and dismissing more cases than any other previous DA at an alarming clip is not an issue, not a problem, but at the same time, you put the National Guard in the subway system. You deployed the state troopers into the subway system. And by the way, it's February right now. Well, it's March technically, but we just got through February, and it's really bad in those 2 months. We're not even at the peak crime months in the city of New York, and already we're at the send in the National Guard stage.
Now, because of the uptick in violence in the subway system, Hochul unveiled a 5-part subway safety plan yesterday that includes a new bill that would ban people from riding public transit for 3 years if they are convicted of a violent crime against another passenger.
Honestly, I genuinely, truly hate Governor Kathy Hochul. Legitimately, from the bottom of my heart. I was a big supporter of the Legend of Zeldin in his gubernatorial campaign against her, and one of the reasons why I can't stand this woman is because the issue that you need to go after is the fact that these people are clearly and obviously jumping the turnstiles, a huge portion of them. If you want to drive down crime, then you should use the proven method of doing so in the subway system. But instead, we get this asinine proposal that you're going to ban somebody from riding the subway for 3 years, which is A, unlikely to ever be enforced in any kind of practical way, because they would have to commit another crime, be arrested in the subway, then people would realize that they're banned, and B, is actually going to disadvantage poor people and disadvantage people from being able to make progress in the city of New York, because for a large majority of people, especially depending on where you might work and or live, you got to take public transportation.
Hochul says she understands that people are afraid to take the subway at times and hopes that an increased police presence and added security cameras will help people feel safer.
But think about how stupid this is. The left is telling you bail reform, we need it because we don't want to criminalize poverty. Let repeat offenders go all the time. Governor Kathy Hochul gives her rubber stamp to that. Enforcing jumping the turnstiles, I mean, there's a reason we started doing that, because we had an ideology that said that this was a small crime and it was no big deal. It was proven false by the data, and we have the largest decrease in crime in the history of the city of New York to show for it. Well, that's just evil white racism and anti-poverty. We can't enforce that. But if you do get arrested, if you do commit a crime, part of your sentence will be that you're banned from public transportation for 3 years, which is, again, absurd in every possible way, unenforceable, and even if there was an arrest made, who are we kidding? District Attorney Alvin Bragg, and by the way, most of these instances that they're concerned about happen to be in the borough of Manhattan, is not going to prosecute any of those cases. He's not going to pursue that 3-year ban. And even if somebody had the 3-year ban, he would just drop the charges on them and it would be no big deal. All you have to do, and let me just make this 100% clear, it is backed up by the history, is enforce jumping the turnstiles. Arrest people for doing this, you deter that kind of behavior, and you get criminals off the street. It's a targeted intervention that can get felony warrants to pop. And by the way, when those felony warrants do pop, you hold those people and you actually pursue those cases as well, and it will be unbelievable what you can achieve.
We have had a series of high-profile crimes that have shaken the security of New Yorkers. Statistically, it's not what it used to be. It's better, much better. But I'm not going to talk about statistics. I'm going to talk about feelings and emotions and the psychology of a city.
So Kathy Hochul's like, oh, statistically, it's not what it used to be. It's better. No, in 2023, we saw the worst years since 1990s levels, which is pretty damn bad. And now we're up from that point. So yeah, it actually is really bad, even comparatively to other eras in the city of New York. But I don't want to dismiss the feelings or anything like that, because part of the thing that drives criminality, and by the way, this is the theory behind broken windows policing, is how people feel about their environment. Their environment does impact their behavior. If you have the perception of complete and total lawlessness in the subway, then that's going to attract more lawlessness. So there is something to getting this under grip, but I will say Hochul's denial of reality is not helping me, and it's not boosting my confidence, and neither is her absurd solution or non-solution that she's pushing, because God forbid she ever acknowledge that bail reform is stupid and not prosecuting people for jumping the turnstiles is leading to crime.
I want more people on the subways. We're not quite back to the pre-pandemic levels. And if people are feeling unsafe and won't come, then I have to do something about it.
Look, people should feel unsafe. They shouldn't go to the subway. And by the way, what Governor Kathy Hochul is doing about it is trying to tax drivers with this congestion pricing nonsense, which is going to try to make the other alternatives much too expensive for New Yorkers. So yeah, I'm not on board with this in any way, shape, or form. Governor Kathy Hochul doesn't care about you. This idea that we're going to replace a targeted intervention with something random is absurd. We should be using the data on where crime occurs, send the police to those hotspot stations, and arrest people for jumping the turnstiles and other crimes, and see if they pop for warrants, and then get those people off the streets. Not randomly deploying National Guard to say, hey, 85-year-old lady, people are gonna say that we're disproportionately targeting the most likely group to commit crimes. I'm gonna search your bag for a second, just randomly, and violate your Fourth Amendment. No, absolutely not. Ridiculous in every way. You know the solution to the problem. We have historical evidence to back it up and data, but you're refusing to do it. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. Maybe you think this is a good idea. Maybe you think there is no Fourth Amendment in the New York City subways. And if you believe that, let me know down in the comments below. If you like this video, then show me by leaving a like. Subscribe for more content. Follow me on my social media. Support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about New York again, missing the point. Till next time.